Weekend. We're remembering those who gave their life for our, so that we can enjoy the freedoms of this land that we live in today. Human beings like to remember things, special things, and they do so in remarkably creative kind of ways. We as Americans are absolutely no different at all. Just think of the memorials at Washington, D.C. alone. Anybody been to Washington, D.C. lately, or at all, to see some of those monuments and those different wonderful statues and pieces of, I don't know what you call it, I guess you call it the statues, the memorials, all those pieces of history. What's that? Artifacts! I thought artifacts were like fossils or something.
Landmarks?
Landmarks! That's another one. Hey, but the thing is, we like to remember things. We like to remember days. We like to remember events. Think of the memorials at Washington, D.C. alone. Former presidents Jefferson, Lincoln, Roosevelt, Washington are remembered by monuments, statues. Wars, soldiers who died in them are remembered. World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Elsewhere in the country, tragic events are memorialized, like Pearl Harbor, the Oklahoma City bombing, 9/11. We build memorials so that we never forget. It's important for us to remember. It's important for us to never forget. Perhaps our city has a statue somewhere or a monument erected somewhere, maybe downtown. I'm not sure. Maybe you have more information than I do regarding Greenville and Winterville and the surrounding area regarding any kind of special monuments of that sort. But in addition to building things, we also set aside certain days to remember someone who meant a lot to our collective, in our collective experience as Americans, like Lincoln and Washington, Martin Luther King Jr. in January. In July, we set aside an entire day to celebrate and commemorate our Independence Day. In November, we remember who? Our veterans, on November the 11th. Today, that's what this sermon is about. It's about remembering. Today, as we look at our text, we're going to read text from Joshua chapter 4. So if you have your Bible, I invite you to turn there as I read the text. Joshua 4, verses 4 through 7. Then Joshua called the 12 men from the people of Israel, whom he had appointed, a man from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, "Pass before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan. Take up each of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the people of Israel, that this may be a sign among you." Now listen here carefully. "When your children ask in time to come, 'What do these stones mean to you?' then you shall tell them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever." Remember to remember. Let's pray. Father, we thank you today, God, for your blessings. God, we thank you for, Lord, your guidance in our life. We thank you, God, in this land, the freedoms, God, that we enjoy. But God, not even the word enjoy begins, Father, to really capture what our freedom is and what freedom in this land really is. And what freedom in this world we live in, Father, really begins, Father, to express in our lives. Lord, today I pray your blessings on us as a people. But God, I also pray your blessings on us, dear God, as a nation. Dear God, that we would never forget, Father, the pains we've been through. May we never forget the valleys, dear God, that this country has gone through. And Father, may we never forget the mountains, God, that we've been able to forge and to climb because your blessings and your grace and your mercy has been with us. And God, Lord, even in this church today, Lord, there are blessings and there are mountains that have been conquered and valleys that have been traversed by different ones. And God, let us remember and hold on to those things, dear God, so that, Lord, when we go through those valleys again of different types and different sorts, God, that we will remember that it was you and is you who gets us through those times. Father, we pray your blessing, dear God, upon this service today. Father, may you lead and guide us and direct us in all things. And Father, we humbly pray these things in the name above every name, even in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen. So we come today to a day to remember. Today, a day in which we come on Memorial Day weekend. Let me share a story with you by a man by the name of Stan Purdom. He tells this story, and I'll share it. In the little town of Victoria Mills, New York, there's a memorial called the Saratoga Monument. I kind of like this story because the previous church I was at is called Saratoga Field Baptist Church. And so when I read that, I was kind of drawn to that, and I think, we've got to make this fit somehow. Well, anyway, Saratoga Monument. It celebrates the decisive win by the Americans over the British in 1777 battles of Saratoga during the American Revolutionary War. The monument is a majestic, imposing stone obelisk nearly 155 feet tall. Work on it started 100 years after that battle, and there's a staircase inside that allows visitors to climb 190 steps to the very top, from which they can see grand views of all the surrounding area as they peer out those windows. Stan Purdom, the guy who was telling this story. Purdom lived in nearby Saratoga Springs during his teen years. He and his friends used to ride their bicycles to the monument. He remembers climbing the staircase on quite a few occasions. Maybe you can remember climbing staircases as kids too. I can. Not this particular set, but he can. Purdom's family moved to another state while he was still in high school. So a few years ago, on a vacation with his wife and his children en route to New England, he detoured to show them the Saratoga Monument. He was looking forward to revisiting this boyhood spot, especially since none of his family had seen it. It was hot that day when they arrived. They were bumping along in an old motor home in which their air conditioning had stopped. It was scorching hot in there. Hey, how many of y'all remember riding around in a car with the air conditioner quit? Ain't they good? Aren't those good times? You don't forget them, though. Well, they were riding along in this motor home, and they were all sweating. They were tired. Everyone was sweaty, tired from the long hours of travel. The kids were seated in the vehicle at a table playing cards, and when their dad urged them to get out to see this thing, they merely glanced out the window, said something about it being just another monument, and they went back to playing cards. Purdom's wife told him to go ahead and have a look, and she'd wait in the vehicle with the kids. She was more interested in where they were going to camp that night and whether it would have a pool so that the kids could enjoy themselves and have a great time. Somewhat deflated, Purdom, that's his name, says that he walked along to the massive structure, consoling himself with the knowledge that at least he'd be able to climb the staircase and see the surrounding countryside once again. But no, it didn't work out that way. You see, he got to the door and found it locked. The park had closed for a few days, a few minutes before they had arrived. And while driving away, Purdom thought about how no one in his family had looked at the monument for what it intended to memorialize. To his kids, it was just another pile of stones, like the others had seen. To his wife, it was an interruption in getting the family settled for the evening. And to Purdom himself, the monument stood not for the brave soldiers who died in 1777, but as a touchstone of happy times he'd had there as a kid. If those who built the monument could have asked Purdom and his family members what the monument meant to them, they likely would have been disappointed with those answers. How do we look at those things that remind us of days gone by? Do we look with the same kind of anticipation? Do we look with the same kind of appreciation? This is what tends to happen to monuments over the passage of time, though. They become detached from the events that led to their creation. In fact, consider Memorial Day itself. It's a day to remember fallen soldiers who died serving this country. Yet for many, it's simply a day off of work. A holiday time at the beach. Kickoff for the summer. When it was intended to be a time when we remember those fine men and women who have died for this country, giving us the freedom that we enjoy. How different are we? Each year the legions that gather in cemeteries to honor the dead get smaller and smaller and smaller. Joshua, in our text, builds a memorial. Let's take a look at the text a little bit closer. It refers to a memorial. Then Joshua summoned the 12 men from the Israelites, whom he had appointed, one from each tribe. Joshua said to them, "Pass on before the ark of the Lord of your God into the middle of the Jordan, and each of you take up a stone on his shoulder, one for each of the tribes of the Israelites, so that this may be a sign among you when your children ask you in time to come, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall say to them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off in front of the ark of the covenant of the Lord. And when it crossed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the Israelites a memorial forever." You see, the people of Israel were on the final leg of a long journey to the promised land. After fleeing from slavery in Egypt, they had been doing this traveling thing. They had been marching. They had been walking for this long, exceedingly long time. And one final barrier was right before them, the Jordan River. And God instructed Joshua to send the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant into the water. And as soon as their feet, listen to this, as soon as their feet touched the water, what happened? Look at that answer. What happened when their feet touched the water? The river stopped. The water stopped flowing. The river parted. And it remained parted while the entire horde of people, the entire Israelite clan, crossed on the dry riverbed. You see, this was an event that was worth memorializing. This was something to be remembered. And God told Joshua to have one man from each of the 12 tribes take a stone from the riverbed, carry it onto the riverbank on the side of the newly entered territory, the land they had been going to, traveling to, looking forward to for so long. And there Joshua heaped the 12 stones up in a memorial, a monument, if you will, to commemorate God's intervention, parting the Red Sea, parting the river right in front of them. But notice Joshua's closing words. So these stones shall be to the Israelites a memorial forever. Think back in your life for just a moment at the hard times you have faced, and think who got you through those difficult moments. You might label it some other way. You might label it somebody gave me something, or somebody was the person I needed at that time in my life. But God is the one who opens doors, and He's the one that closes doors. This scripture text speaks to all of us today, because I believe that we as God's people, as we as Americans today, we as Americans, we need to remember what God is doing in our midst. I believe He's got a plan for this country still. I believe that God can do all things. I believe that God can send revival. I believe that God can do things like you have never even begun to experience yet, if we walk by faith and not by sight. That these stones, I believe there's something else here that's a little bit more for us to grab a hold of. You see, to me, this was a memorial forever. I wonder today if we think that still happens. So let me ask you a question personally. Today, what do these stones mean? I think the same trend continues today regarding our memorials as new generations come along. Since they were not part of the events and the factors that were important to their parents at that time and their grandparents' generations, it's coming for younger people and new generations to come along and it not mean as much to them. I think part of the reason I cherish the freedom of this country is because I heard the stories from my granddad laying in bed at night before we all fell asleep, me and my cousin, and he telling me the stories of how he risked his life and how he fought for our freedom. Those stories ring true in my ear. I can still picture on his back the shrapnel wound where he was injured fighting for this country. Maybe that's why I'm so passionate about those who serve today. Those who give their all. Those who fight for those who are home. And then today I see all of these people who take advantage of our freedoms. This ain't going to be a patriotic sermon today, but it's about remembering those who struggled, those who fought, but most importantly, those who died providing what we have. I hope future generations will appreciate it. Maybe Joshua had hoped the same thing. Maybe Joshua had hoped that following generations would ask, what do these stones mean? But in fact, many of the newcomers getting bothered. One of God's chief charges against the people of Israel, anybody know this text? One of God's chief charges against the people of Israel, and I want y'all to hear this. One of God's chief charges against Israel in the book of Jeremiah as well as Ezekiel was, they have forgotten me. So how are we doing today? Are we remembering how God opens doors in our lives? Before we bemoan this failure to remember, though, let's acknowledge that it's probably not even reasonable to expect something that commemorates a value or an event for one generation to have the same meaning for a later generation. For example, let's go here. Let's chase this rabbit. How many was alive on 9/11? How many can recall what you were doing on 9/11? I can recall what I was doing. I can remember my first emotions. It's still like fresh right there. But in 2 generations from now, they will never remember what that was about. It's not going to be as important to the next generation unless we teach our children. Unless we teach our children why we believe the Bible, why we honor God, why we worship God, it's not going to mean nothing because they've got to see that passion inside of you to really know what it's about. And I think that's why I'm so passionate when it comes to those who fought in our country, who fought for our country. You see, by ignoring history, we lose the benefits of learning from the past. We benefit from knowing that we as a people of this earth have gone what we've gone through and where we as a people of faith have been. As someone has said, without knowing history, we are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. What is the history of the country? What is the history of our society? What is the history of your family? What is the history of this church? What is our history? How does it apply to us? Again, the words come to us without knowing history. We are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. Don't get me wrong. We all can. I thank God every day for forgiveness. But if we look at history, we can learn so much. So let's look at why memorials have meaning this morning. Here is a very important fact or insight. The meaning of past events can be quite the same for us as those who live through them. So as real as my granddad's experience was to me and him telling me that firsthand, and hearing that story over and over and over in my mind, my experience was different than his because he actually lived through it. I believe our job today is not to force our kids to bow at our memorials, but to do what we can to help them understand why those memorials have meaning for us. We can help them see our stones, piles of stones, both literal and figurative stones, as if not memorials, at least as milestones in the journey that we've faced. In other words, every time we go to a memorial, intentionally or otherwise, we can think of what it will mean both for the current generation, but also for the ones to come. There'll be different meanings. True. There'll be secondary meanings, of course. But, for example, here are some ideas of what memorials can do. for the generation that was there and for those that come along later generations. A memorial can celebrate heroic or happy events and can mourn tragic ones. Israel's 12 stones testify to the current generation that God helped and guided them. Why? Where has God helped and guided you in your life? You need to tell that story. If to nobody else, to your children and grandchildren. A milestone to the next generation that witnesses that people earlier were helped and gives those who weren't there a basis for concluding that God not only helped them, but God's going to help me. But also, a memorial can remind those who lived through that terrible time the cost of whatever event it was. But as a milestone, it can cause subsequent generations to do all that is possible to avoid that kind of a bloodshed. Now, a memorial can promote healing. A memorial can also help a generation realize what's at stake, to muster up the courage, to muster up the drive, to do what is necessary to make sure that we remain a free country. Now, I'm not going to put too much faith in this, because I know by reading the Scriptures and reading the Bible that nations rise and that nations fall. Anybody know what the average lifespan of a generation is? America's almost at its max. We'll know the truth. Unless God's continued blessings continue to stay in this country. What does that mean? It means the people of God need to pull together and begin to pray like never before. We need to rise up and be the family that God has called us to be. No matter what our jobs, no matter what our occupations, we need to be the people of God in whatever thing we do. I don't care if you're a garbage collector. I don't care if you're the President of the United States of America. Whatever your job is, do it with all of who you are, and do it as God calls you, and do it as a Christian, because that's who we are. God is calling us out today to rise up to the challenge. Monument builders don't have the power to force others to honor the monuments themselves, but they can do their best to help them understand the milestone implications. On a personal level, we want our children to see and understand what's important and valuable to us. We hope some of these things, including our faith in God, will become of even greater value to them. But we don't want them bound or limited to our understanding and conclusions. That's one thing about my granddad I love so much. Even though we had our own thoughts and our own ideas, and he was of one generation, and I was of an entirely, completely different generation, he allowed me the space I needed to grow and to develop theologically, biblically, scripturally, so that God's power and God's presence would work on me. What are you facing today? God's got a plan for your life like you've never begun to imagine. He's got a plan for this church like you've never even begun to scratch the surface yet. But when we give God all of who we are, we can trust Him knowing that He's got this and that we need not fear. Memorials are important because it helps us to remember. It was mentioned a while ago, I believe, in a prayer, I think someone mentioned a while ago, that I think Mr. Tommy mentioned this in his prayer, how old this church is set here and how long it's served this community. Folks, let me tell you something. This church is a strong church, and God is working in this church. My prayer today is this, that you will listen to God's call as it applies to your life. God's got a plan for you. He's got a plan for this church. And if we just trust Him and follow obediently, we're going to see some great things happen. This morning, let me just ask you a personal question this morning. How many of y'all look at Facebook before you get into church today? Yeah, a lot of you. How many of you did it while you were in church? Be honest. Be honest. Oh no, I saw a hand raised. I'm not going to point it out, but I saw some hands raised. Now, Selena, you got a phone? Who's got a phone? Who's got a phone? I read something she said about being obedient. Courtney, will you pull up Selena's Facebook real quick? She's got a quote there. It's a quote. It's about obedience. It fits in with my sermon. Y'all know I love, how many know I love the word obedience? We're called to be an obedient people of God. But I read that quote this morning, I was thinking, man, that applies great. Can you read that loud? Or I'll read it. You just give me the phone. Oh, Mark's for sharing.
The best place to be in the center of God's will, but obedience is not always the safest place to be. It is believed that the most of the apostles were martyred for their faith. God is at the safe shoreline, but he is also in the crashing waves of their times.
No matter what you face, we are called to be a faithful and an obedient people of God. Because only through obedience do we please God, and does God really hear our prayers and our needs. What are you facing today? Even in the midst of pain and trials and suffering, we're called to be faithful and we're called to be obedient. Because God honors that. Folks, today, if we trust God, and if we are faithful to God, and if we are obedient to God, we have yet to even, like I said a while ago, we have yet to scratch the surface of what God wants to do in and through this church and through you. Will you pray with me? Father, we love you today, and God, we praise your name. God, we know that you are the giver of good and perfect gifts. God, we know that you open doors, you close doors. God, we know that you, Father, have a calling upon each and every person in this church. Though the specificities, Father, of the callings may vary, God, Lord, you have a calling and a purpose for each and every one. You have goals, Father, for each one to achieve. You have a plan for their life. God, Lord, help them today, dear God, to make that first step, whatever it is. It might seem insignificant to them, but God, to you, it's not, because it's the first step to a different life, whatever it might be. God, today we offer this unto you, Father. We offer our lives to you, Lord. This day, Father, to work and to perform miracles. Father, to convict us of sin. Father, to show us the error of our ways. Father, to help us, Father, through this time. Father, Lord, we have folks in our church today who are grieving and who are struggling. And God, we ask your blessings upon them. God, there's needs in our church today that are very, very real. And Father, whatever the need is in this church today, I pray, God, your blessings. I pray, God, your anointing. And I pray, God, your touch on every life. But God, this day, help us, dear God, to see the significance of the people of Israel, Father, setting up these 12 stones, Father, as a memorial, Father, for how you blessed them. And Father, now as we look, Father, at this, Father, place we are in our lives, may we also remember, God, how you've always been there for us. And God, it is in that, Father, today, that remembering of how you have been there, and Father, how you promised, Lord, to continue to be there. God, that we have hope for tomorrow. God, we love you and we thank you. God, we pray your blessings upon each and every person in this church today. From the young people upstairs to everyone in this sanctuary. May your anointing and your blessings be upon them in Christ's name. Amen.